Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm talking to you about Sergers, specifically what you can do if you can't afford one. So if you're in that boat, stay tuned and let's get into it. So over the last few years, I've done quite a few videos on Sergers. You see them here, here, here and here. Every time I get questions, well, not questions, comments saying this is all good and well, but not everyone can afford a Serger, or you're in a really privileged position because you've got a Serger, I can't afford one, or I'm saving up for one, but I don't have one at the moment. So I thought we would address that and get into it and find out what we actually can do. It's one thing to be really frustrated, but it's another if we don't do anything about it, and there are things we can do about it. So let me give you a little bit of background about me. So a lot of you who are watching this will be people on a very limited income. I also am on a very limited income. Now I have chronic illness and am unable to work. That's why I do YouTube. And so I gave up work about 6 years ago. But before I did, when I did have a full-time wage, that is when I bought my Serger, my first Serger. And it was a cheapest chips one. It cost £200 or $200. I say cheapest chips, 200 is a lot of money, but it's at the cheapest level you're going to buy a Serger. And then I had that for about 3 or 4 years, and I saved up over about 2 years, and I bought a better one which costs £350 or dollars, and that's a Jaguar one. And I got it because it opens up completely at the front, because I have essential tremor and that can be a problem threading it, and this just made my life a lot easier. Shortly after that, I stopped sewing and I haven't really picked it up. So it's still sat there and I'm going to use it very, very soon. But let's get into my tips if you don't have money for a Serger. So I'd say the very first thing to do, if you cannot afford a Serger and you really want one, is to ask around. Do you know anyone that sews? Because the chances are, if you do, they've got multiple machines that are just gathering dust. And they may have an extra Serger that you can borrow. And borrowing is a lot cheaper than buying. So that would be my starting point. You could also ask on like the groups like Facebook and what have you, on the free sites, has anyone got an old Serger that they don't want to use? You may be able to find one for free in that way. So the next option is that you go to a local sewing centre and use their Sergers. So most cities will have sewing machine centres where you can go and sew. They might run classes, or you may be able to go and book an afternoon there, and they'll have sewing machines, and they'll probably have 1 or 2 Sergers. They're normally very cheap, so you might pay £5 for the afternoon or something, and you can go there and use their Serger. That's a really good idea, because that is going to give you an idea of what it's like to use a Serger, because a lot of people get very scared by Sergers in the beginning. They're very noisy and they're quite fast compared to a sewing machine, and they've got a blade as well. So you might be best off doing that before you buy one anyway, because then you can get some experience and you've got a teacher there who can support you and show you the ropes basically. The next thing you can do is something I just touched on just now, is to look at second-hand sites. So I talked about Facebook Marketplace for free Sergers, but also they might have cheap ones. So if you can't afford a brand new Serger, but you've maybe got £50 or $50 that you could spare, then a second-hand Serger is a really good place. Because often what happens is Sergers are bought because we all want the shiny objects and they never get used, and then people put them on these sites to sell to get a bit of money back. I'm going to do that with one of my Sergers, in fact my old Serger that I don't use anymore. But also a lot of older people sew, and when they pass away their families will put the machines up for sale. So that's a really good way, and that's sustainable as well, rather than purchasing brand new machines all the time. So the next tip is to really understand that you don't actually need a Serger. You might see these YouTube videos where they've got 10 tricks to using your Serger, or 6 secrets you never knew about your Serger, and you watch these videos and you get FOMO, don't you? You want to have a Serger. because you see it, it looks good, you think it's going to change your life. It's not going to change your life, believe me. I have 2 Sergers, it's not going to change your life. But I would say, in the first instance, ask yourself why you want a Serger, because not everyone actually needs a Serger. If you sew mainly wovens, then you do not need a Serger. Your sewing machine is perfectly good. But if you sew a lot of jersey, then perhaps a sewing machine is something that would come in useful for you. But what it's going to do, it's going to give you a professional finish. Do you really need that professional finish? No one is going to see the inside of your seams once you're wearing it. It really depends on your own needs. But you really got to understand that you just don't need a serger. Now, I wish I learnt this when I bought a cover stitch machine, which was the biggest waste of money I ever spent on anything, honestly. In my video, The Dumbest Sewing Purchases, I talked about that, and it was quite controversial because people love their cover stitch machines. But for me, I used it like 5, 6 times. I ended up selling it, getting some money back on it, because it was just something that I thought I needed because I had FOMO, and I did not need it. And I wasted a lot of money finding that out. So save yourself some money on sergers and don't buy one if you really don't need it. So further to that, I would say get to know your sewing machine, because it has everything you need right on that sewing machine. Even if you have a very basic sewing machine that does a straight stitch, a zigzag, and maybe a buttonhole, that machine has everything you need. You do not need a fancy machine with lots of stitches. Like, I've got a fancy machine with about 300 stitches and I've used about 9 of them. Get to know your sewing machine. Spend an afternoon, you're not making a project, you're just sitting down with your sewing machine and some scrap fabric, and you're just having a play around and getting to know what it can do. They have a stretch stitch, like the lightning stitch on the sewing machine is what you want for knit fabrics, and you can use that, and then you can trim off the edge yourself. Like, that's essentially all a serger does, is it does a stretch stitch and it trims the edge. So when you are having a practice on your sewing machine, something you can do is look into different finishes. So the serger offers one specific finish, and that's an overcast stitch. But there's lots and lots of ways that you can finish garments. You can do an overcast stitch. You can do a baby hem. You could do a French seam. You could do pinking. You could do double fold over. There's all sorts of things you can do. I'm thinking off the top of my head here. But a serger finish is only one kind of finish, and often your project might not call for that kind of finish. It might call for something else. For example, if you were making a camisole in a silk fabric, or even a viscose fabric, it's very, very light and airy. If you put a serger stitch on it, it might be too heavy for the garment, because obviously serger stitches have 3 or 4 different threads, and when they're all woven in together, it can make quite a bit of bulk. So it might not always be the right stitch for you, and there are other types of finishes that are going to work better for you. So we still have a few more yet, but if you are liking this video and the tips that I'm giving in it, do hit that subscribe button down below and leave me a comment. Do you have a serger? Do you like it? Was it money well spent? Let us know. And also, if you don't have a serger, how do you get by? Let others know, and then we can help each other in the community. So the next tip is, if you don't have a serger, you can't afford a new machine, is to look into buying things that can help. So when I say buying things, I only mean very small things that cost like £10 or $10. But there are gadgets that mimic a serger. So there's one specific. I've never bought it and I've never used it, so I can't recommend it as such, but I have seen other people rave about it. And it's basically an attachment that you put onto your machine, and then when you sew, it trims the edge off for you, and it mimics and looks very similar to a serger. And I think they cost about £10 to £15 or dollars. They're not expensive, so that might be a really good option for you. There are other things sergers can do, as well as this overlock stitch, but only a few. So it's really not very many. I'm just saying that because I know I'll get comments saying Sergers do other things as well. I know they do. But we're focusing on the main reason why people would want a Serger. So the next piece of advice I have for you in terms of having FOMO, wanting a Serger, can't afford one, getting frustrated, is to stop watching Serger videos. As I said at the beginning of the video, there are lots of people who go around commenting on Serger hack videos saying, it's all good and well, we all don't have a Serger. Stop watching those videos because they're not helping you, they're not helping your mental health, and they're not helping your bank balance because you will cave and you will end up buying it, perhaps when you can't afford to. So stop torturing yourself with these videos. Just because there is a video that is giving tips and tricks and hacks for Sergers doesn't mean that it's a video you need to watch, even if it is from a creator you love. So you might be someone who watches every video of mine, but if a video comes up that is going to trigger you in some way or upset you, then I wouldn't want you to watch it. So just be mindful of that not every video is for everyone, and we can live a much happier life if we only absorb the things that make us feel good. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed. Give me a like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.